There is an empire that controlled more land than Rome, more wealth than Egypt, and a larger population than the entirety of Europe. Yet it rarely appears in any standard history curriculum. In the 13th century, the European continent was largely defined by small, isolated settlements. Disease spread quickly, literacy was rare, and local kingdoms were locked in perpetual, grinding warfare over minor strips of territory. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in West Africa, an entirely different reality was taking shape. A highly structured civilization was expanding across a land abundant in raw gold. The scale of this new state dwarfed contemporary European powers. The infrastructure and wealth flowing through its trade routes made European capitals of the era look remarkably small in comparison. Our standard historical timeline is missing a massive piece of global context, because the true superpower of the Middle Ages was left out of the historical record. The Mali Empire was established by Sundiata Keita. Born with physical weaknesses that left him unable to walk properly as a child, he was mocked and exiled. But in 1235, he united the Mandinka people, led an army, and completely dismantled the ruling Soso Empire. Following his victory, Sundiata focused on governance. He established the Kurukan Fuga, one of the earliest known constitutional documents in recorded history. This chart contrasts the two models of governance at the time. While European monarchs largely ruled by divine right and sheer force, the Mali constitution explicitly guaranteed civic rights, outlined protections for women, and laid down strict environmental regulations. These legal concepts were codified and enforced centuries before similar ideas of human rights would gain any serious erection in Europe. The massive population of the empire remained stable because they lived under a functional, sophisticated system of law. This graph illustrates the estimated net worth of Mansa Musa, the empire's most famous ruler. Economists place his wealth at roughly $400 billion. That exceeds the absolute peak valuation of modern billionaires like Elon Musk, making Mansa Musa the wealthiest human being in history. The sheer volume of that wealth was put on display in 1324, when Mansa Musa embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca. He traveled with a caravan of 60,000 people. His procession included 12,000 servants, each carrying 4 pounds of pure gold, 500 heralds with 6-pound golden staffs, and 80 camels loaded with hundreds of pounds of gold dust. This line graph tracks the value of gold in the North African market. As Mansa Musa moved through Cairo, he spent and gifted so much gold that he oversaturated the market. The regional value of the metal collapsed by 25%. It took 12 full years for the economy to recover from that single visit. Word of this massive financial disruption reached Europe quickly. Mapmakers began updating their atlases, explicitly drawing Mansa Musa into West Africa, crown on his head, gripping a solid gold coin. This wealth was so significant that a single journey across the continent crashed the economies of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, forcing the medieval world to visually center West Africa on its world maps. Beyond the gold, Mansa Musa heavily funded architecture. He commissioned the Great Mosque of Djenné, a distinctive mud brick structure that merged Islamic design with local West African traditions, creating a style that has never been successfully replicated anywhere else. He also invested heavily in the city of Timbuktu. At its center was the St. Khor Madrasa, a massive university that drew scholars from all over the Islamic world. At its peak, the university housed over 1 million written manuscripts. This collection contained detailed treatises on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. This concentration of scholarship and literature established Timbuktu as a critical center of learning, housing one of the largest libraries in the medieval world. Following Mansa Musa's death, a series of weak rulers took the throne. The empire's territory slowly fragmented and was eventually absorbed by the expanding Songhai Empire. As the centuries passed, Western historians ignored this complex, highly literate civilization, choosing instead to write a narrative that focused entirely on European dominance. But the physical evidence survived. Hundreds of thousands of original manuscripts are intact in private collections across Mali. The vast majority remain untranslated. The complex Arabic calligraphy in dense red and black ink holds scientific data that modern scholars have yet to read. Today, local scholars are carefully cataloging and digitizing these fragile texts, trying to preserve a direct physical link to a buried past. These records represent a significant portion of the medieval intellectual world that remains largely unstudied by modern historians. Our understanding of global history relies on the ongoing effort to translate and interpret them.